They thought you would always be there. They thought your patience, your devotion, your love would never run out. They thought they could take without giving, demand without respecting, expect without appreciating. And for a while, you played that role. You gave, you stayed. You believed love was about endurance. Until one day, you realized endurance had turned into self-betrayal. You realized that being taken for granted is the slowest form of invisibility, and you walked away. It is only then that the story shifts, because the absence of what was once constant becomes unbearable. The same woman who dismissed your presence now feels the weight of your silence. The same woman who thought your patience was weakness now feels the sharp edge of your strength. The same woman who believed you would always circle around her suddenly notices the empty orbit where you used to shine. That is when regret begins. That is when she starts to miss what she never thought she could lose. Psychology has long understood that people value what they cannot control. Carl Jung spoke about projection, about how we place our unmet needs onto others without realizing it. When a woman takes a man for granted, she projects stability onto him as if it were an endless resource. She imagines his love as permanent, unconditional, inevitable. She convinces herself she can postpone gratitude, delay appreciation, withhold affection, because he will always be there. And then one day, he is not. One day, the stability is gone. One day, the silence replaces the voice that once reassured her. And in that absence, she sees herself clearly for the first time. She sees the cracks in the fantasy. She sees that what she dismissed was, in fact, rare. It is a strange paradox of the human heart. We only grasp the weight of someone's presence in the heaviness of their absence. A man who was once a given becomes a ghost who haunts her mornings. She wakes up expecting a message that never comes. She looks around the room and realizes the little gestures are gone, the ones she never noticed until they disappeared. She remembers his patience when she was difficult, his care when she was careless, his loyalty when she was distracted. She remembers, and the remembering cuts deeper than any wound he could have left behind, because she cannot go back. The door closed quietly, but it closed forever. When a woman begins to miss the man she took for granted, it is not always because she loved him deeply. Sometimes it is because she realizes that kind of love will not come again. The world is full of attention, but not all attention is devotion. The world is full of words, but not all words are consistent. The world is full of desire, but not all desire is rooted in loyalty. And so she replays what she once dismissed, only to see that it was the rarest gift of all. The man who leaves after being taken for granted carries an unexpected power, because his absence teaches more than his presence ever could. His silence becomes the mirror she cannot escape. Every attempt to replace him falls short. Every new voice feels shallow compared to the depth of his presence. Every gesture feels temporary compared to his enduring devotion. And slowly, the truth settles in her heart. She did not lose a man. She lost the kind of man who does not return twice. But here lies the deepest truth. Missing him will not bring him back. Regret does not reverse time. Tears do not rebuild bridges already burned. The silence is permanent because the lesson is permanent. For the man who was once invisible in his giving has now become unforgettable in his absence. He does not need to prove anything. He does not need to seek revenge. He does not need to explain his choice. His absence is the explanation. His life moving forward is the verdict. His peace is the loudest answer of all. When a woman misses the man she took for granted, what she really misses is the version of herself who was loved without condition. She misses the reflection of his loyalty in her eyes. She misses the comfort of being chosen every day without having to earn it. She misses the luxury of being careless and still cared for. And that luxury is gone. Because he decided to choose himself. He decided to stop bleeding for someone who would never notice the wound. He decided to reclaim the energy he poured into a heart that only opened halfway. That decision, though quiet, is irreversible. And so, the absence grows heavier with time. At first, she thinks it is just nostalgia. She tells herself she will get over it. But the weight does not fade. Because it is not nostalgia. It is truth. It is the realization that love is not infinite when it is not respected. It is the realization that even the strongest men have limits, and those limits are not weakness but wisdom. It is the realization that she underestimated the cost of neglect. When a man is taken for granted, he feels it long before he leaves. He feels it in the empty thank yous, in the distracted eyes, in the forgotten moments. He feels it in the way his efforts are met, with silence, his devotion with indifference, his patience with more demands. And for a long time, he stays, because love makes him hope. Love makes him believe tomorrow will be different. Love makes him accept the burden of invisibility, until love becomes the very reason he must leave, because to love her was to lose himself, and leaving is the only way to return to himself. That is why his absence becomes unforgettable, because his leaving was not anger, it was clarity. It was not rejection, it was self-respect. It was not punishment, it was liberation. And no one forgets the moment they realized the person they dismissed was the very anchor of their world. Number one forgets the silence that echoes louder than all the words once spoken. This is the beginning of regret. This is the point where missing him is no longer a fleeting thought, but a permanent ache. And it is the ache of realizing that some men cannot be replaced, no matter how many new names, faces, or voices come along. Some men carry a kind of energy that does not duplicate. Some men love in ways that do not repeat, and once they are gone, they are gone. Before we continue, if you have ever wondered why they only miss you when it is too late, the Jung method can help you understand it, reveals the hidden patterns of love, and shows how to protect your heart without losing yourself. The link is pinned in the first comment. The moment a woman begins to miss the man she took for granted is not sudden. It begins quietly, like a shadow stretching across her days. At first, she notices the silence in small places, a message not received, a call not answered, an absence. In the rhythm of life she once thought permanent, she tells herself it does not matter. She tells herself she is fine. But beneath those words, her body knows. Something rare has left, something that cannot be replaced by distraction, by noise, by the shallow attention of others. This realization grows heavier over time. At first, she may even try to deny it by filling the void with other faces, with new conversations, with temporary comfort, but none of it satisfies. Because deep down, she remembers the difference. She remembers how he listened, not just to her words but to the spaces between them. She remembers how he stood steady when the world was unstable. She remembers how his presence felt like a home she did not have to earn. And the contrast is unbearable. What she dismissed as ordinary was, in truth, extraordinary. Carl Jung often spoke about the unconscious and how it shapes the choices we make without realizing it. When someone takes another for granted, it is often because they assume permanence where there is none. They assume love is endless, that devotion is automatic, that presence is guaranteed. This unconscious assumption blinds them to the fragility of connection. Only when the bond breaks, only when the absence becomes undeniable, does the unconscious awaken to reality. And that awakening is painful, because it reveals not only what was lost, but also the blindness that caused the loss. There is a particular ache in realizing that the one who loved you the most is the one you failed to cherish. It is different from losing someone you never valued. It is different from missing someone who only gave halfway. The ache is sharper because it exposes the truth. You had what everyone else is searching for, and you let it slip away. You had loyalty in a world full of half-hearted commitments. You had consistency in a world full of broken promises. You had depth in a world obsessed with surfaces. And now it is gone. That knowledge leaves a scar no apology can erase. For the man who walks away, the story feels different. He carries no need to prove his worth. He carries no desire to make her regret. His silence is not designed to punish but to heal himself. He knows that staying would have been the slow death of his soul. He knows that leaving is the only way to honor the love he gave, to protect the pieces of himself still unbroken. And so he walks in dignity, not rage. He disappears into silence, not out of spite, but out of clarity. And yet, this very dignity is what echoes in her mind, because she expected anger, she expected arguments, she expected one last chance to assert her control. Instead, she was met with silence. That silence unsettles her more than words ever could. It shows her that she is no longer the center of his gravity. It shows her that her neglect has consequences. It shows her that he values himself more than her approval. And that realization stings deeper than rejection, because it reveals a truth she never wanted to face. She underestimated the man who loved her. Over time, this regret transforms into longing. She begins to replay the moments she once dismissed. The evenings where he stayed to listen to her complaints. The mornings where he carried the weight she refused to see. The gestures, that felt small at the time but now shine like treasures in memory. Every act of care, every word of loyalty, every sacrifice that seemed invisible before now stands out in painful clarity. She remembers, and the remembering becomes the prison, because memory is the only place she can find him now. And here lies the paradox. Missing him does not bring him closer. Missing him pushes him further away, because the man she remembers no longer exists in her world. He has become someone else, someone she cannot reach. His silence has transformed him. His absence has rebuilt him. His life has moved in directions where her presence is no longer relevant. And so, the more she longs, the more she realizes the finality of her loss. What makes this realization even harder is that she begins to see him through the eyes of others. She hears his name in conversations. She sees the respect others hold for him. She notices how he thrives, how he grows, how he becomes stronger in his silence. And she knows she no longer has access to that version of him. She knows she cannot claim him as part of her story anymore. He belongs to his own story now, a story where she is no longer a chapter. This is when regret shifts into despair, not dramatic despair, not always visible to the world, but the quiet despair of knowing you held something priceless and let it slip through your fingers. She may try to reach out, she may try to test the silence, but the door is no longer open, and in that closed door lies the deepest lesson of all. Love is not guaranteed. Respect is not optional. Appreciation is not something you postpone until tomorrow, because tomorrow does not always come. For the man, there is no need to gloat in this. His victory is not her regret. His victory is his freedom. His victory is the peace of knowing he chose himself after years of being invisible. His victory is the strength of walking in silence, unshaken by the need for recognition. And it is this peace that makes him unforgettable, because nothing is more powerful than a man who no longer seeks validation from the one who denied it. And so, she misses him, not just as a man, but as a presence, as a foundation, as a mirror of her worth. She misses the safety she felt without knowing it. She misses the love that asked for nothing but gave everything. She misses the steady hand she dismissed as ordinary but now sees as rare. She misses, and in that missing she learns the hardest truth of all. Some men do not return. Some love cannot be regained. Some silences cannot be broken. This is why regret is a teacher. It teaches her what she ignored. It teaches her the weight of neglect. It teaches her the cost of taking someone for granted. And though the lesson comes too late, it still shapes her. She will never forget the man who walked away quietly. She will never forget the silence that spoke louder than all her excuses. She will never forget that once she had what she thought she could replace, and now she knows she never will. For him, this is the smartest revenge. Not a revenge of anger, not a revenge of spite, but the revenge of peace, the revenge of silence, the revenge of a life lived well beyond her reach. Because in the end, the most unforgettable thing you can do to someone who took you for granted is to become someone they cannot access anymore. Not through words, not through arguments, not through longing, just through silence. So when women miss the man they took for granted, what they truly miss is the reflection of their own value that he carried. They miss the rare love that no longer stands at their side. They miss the man who loved them in ways no one else has. But the story does not repeat, because the man who leaves does not return to the same prison twice. His silence is permanent. His absence is final. His life is proof that love without respect cannot survive. And that is why the story is powerful, because it shows both sides of the truth. For her, it is regret. For him, it is liberation. And for anyone listening, it is the reminder that love is not something to take for granted. It is something to honor, to protect, to cherish. Because once it is gone, it may never return.